Hello, and welcome to this Wednesday, August 18th edition of Farmer Safety Corner. I'm glad you could join me for this half-hour session to look at machinery safety. So some of the topics we're going to take a look at today in particular are pre-trip inspections, maintenance on machinery, the owner's manual that accompanies machinery when you purchase it, PTO or power takeoff, and runovers and rollovers. So at the bottom of your screen, there should be a little bar there if you touch the bottom of the screen, and there's a chat feature and a Q&A feature. Feel free to add your questions, comments into that feature whenever you want, and I will just try to keep an eye on it throughout the next 30 minutes, taking a look at those questions and commenting to them when I can. So to start off, I kind of want to look at the Nova Scotia Occupational Health and Safety General Regulations, and I've got that here ready on my screen. And there we look at machinery, but we go, what is machinery on farm and how does it fall under the legislative requirements and what does that mean? So of course, occupational health and safety is making sure we do all we can to prevent injury and incidents on our farms while using this particular machinery. So mobile equipment, and you can see here where it reads is a self-propelled equipment designed for use off highways, but not designed primarily to carry passengers. So this would include your tractors, your ride on lawnmowers and excavators and that type of equipment, but not any all-terrain vehicles, forklifts, and elevating work platforms. So you carry down a little bit further, and what are my duties when using hoist and mobile equipment? And it says anyone who operates a hoist, forklift, or mobile equipment must follow the manufacturer's specifications or the specifications of an engineer. So if you have machinery that you've made to suit your farming scope of work, because you have an intricate part of your farming design on how you produce your product, then that particular machinery needs to have an engineer stamp when it is made. If it is something that is purchased through a manufacturer or supplier, then of course it should have an owner's manual with detailed instructions on safety, the different components of the equipment, how to use it, as well as maintenance schedules. And it is here that the occupational health and safety have let us know that we need to follow those manufacturer specifications or the engineered specifications to ensure the safety of its operation. And so in turn, to those of who work around that equipment or who are operating the equipment. So moving from there, I want to take a look at getting ready when operating equipment. So for instance, I want to look at pre-trip inspections. So if you go into resources and then under additional supports, endorsement testing, here we have two pre-trip inspections that you can use in particular for making sure that your vehicle, which is a truck that you may use on farm, and the tractor have a method of inspection to ensure that they are safe to use prior to the use. So I'm going to click on this and it opens up a document. So this document opens up into a chart, and I'm not going to enable it editing here, just for viewing purposes. Let me just see if I can move it out of the way here, make it a little bit bigger. So here is a chart, and it includes 7 days a week. So you would typically use an inspection on this particular farm vehicle prior to use each day. It doesn't have to be every day, but it would be prior to use for the particular job or task that you do. And it only has to be done once a day. Keeping in mind, though, you would need to vault to the owner's manual of your particular vehicle. So some of these components may not be required, or there could be additional components based on your manual that need to be checked. There's also some vehicles that require a post-trip inspection as well as a pre-trip inspection. So you could divide this column into pre and post and making sure that you follow those manufacturer specifications. And so the intent of this is to make sure all the main components of that particular vehicle are in operating condition before you use it. So if there's anything deficient on this particular checklist before operation, it needs to be fixed before you go ahead and use it for that particular work for the day. A similar one is outlined for Tractor, and I can bring that up as well. And this is free for download and using as your own. Just adapt it to your particular vehicle. Like I said, go back and check that manufacturer's manual, or and adding your farm name. Oh, sorry, my mic just cut out here. Hang on. There we go. And here's the one for Tractor. Just gonna bring it up here after it downloads. And there you can see it says Tractor Inspection again, free to download and adopt as your own, just checking your manual. And then it just goes through various other components for your particular tractor. It has outside, inside, and again, just a reminder, your particular tractor could have and require pre and post according to that manufacturer's manual. So just go ahead and download this particular form, and away you go. I also have one, if you go back to resources under Farm Safety Plan, and then in section 3 of the workbook templates for this Farm Safety Plan, we also have a blank inspection report for forklift. So you can download this one as well. Again, it's a .doc, so you can simply edit and make it your own. Keeping in mind to check with your manufacturer's manual to see if these components are what required, or if there's any additional components that you may want to add based on what you find in that manual. So easy to use, at your fingertips, to be able to check your equipment before you head out to start using it on farm, and especially if this is a tractor vehicle, getting onto the road with the public, and especially if you're hauling loads. So the owner's manual is something I've referred to just even checking to see what should be in your list for pre-trip inspections, but it also includes that maintenance schedule. And so we gotta, and as we discovered with occupational health and safety legislation, we need to follow that maintenance schedule to ensure that the machinery is in the condition for which it's to be designed to use on farm and on the road, especially if you're using that equipment for dual purposes, going from field to field. So using and looking at particular maintenance, you should keep records of your maintenance. Now, there's lots of different software programs out there if you are computer savvy to be able to track your maintenance. For some of your large farms, the many tractors and vehicles that you may have that you use on a daily basis, and even for smaller farms, you can use these particular software programs, but just entering in your units with your VIN numbers to easily keep track, and then writing in the maintenance that is done either in-house or maintenance that is done at or through a service company, because they may come to farm and still conduct service, or you send it there. It just depends. So if you're doing your maintenance in-house, to track your maintenance, you want to keep the receipts of any parts and things that you use, as well as track the labor and who actually performed that maintenance on your log forms. Now you can create your own log forms, or you can download some from the internet. I currently don't have any log forms available for maintenance, and something that we perhaps will build in the future. A lot of farms are currently using available software programs or even spreadsheets, creating their own spreadsheets to be able to keep track of when that maintenance needs to happen. Some of the details, other than who's performing the maintenance, that you might want to keep track of on your forms is, of course, the dates of when the maintenance was performed, and the specifics of the repair or even the maintenance. So whether it's an oil change, a tire repair, plugs changed, fluids added, you want to be able to note all of that. And the reason behind this is, one, well, there's actually two reasons. So one, you want to make sure that that equipment is completely ready for its operation and protect the operator and the people working around it. But what happens if there is an incident? So if investigators come out and they ask you, so was this vehicle or tractor, forklift, in the condition it needs to be operated safely? And you're going to tell them yes. But they're going to ask you to prove it. And the only way to prove that is if you have documented records of this particular maintenance and any type of repair. So always keep very thorough records and have somebody else look at the records. So if they understand what is happening on those records, what types of things have happened without asking you any questions, then you know you have thorough records. But if that person is looking at it, say, what was it that was done on this day? Who did it? I'm not sure what was included, what parts were used. So if they have those questions, and we know our records need to be tidied up a little bit and those details added. Another reason for keeping great maintenance records is if you're purchasing or selling your particular equipment. So if you're purchasing equipment, you may want to ask who you're purchasing from if they have records of maintenance. So then you can see what has been fixed to date. So if there's a perpetual problem with any particular part, that may be a kind of a heads up, maybe this one's a lemon for that particular area and you don't want to continuously spend money on that particular repair and the cost incurred from that particular repair. So you can get a heads up pretty quickly on if this is something that is a good purchase or something that you might be leery of purchasing. And then of course, if you're on the selling side of things, it's great for that buyer, for you to be able to show them all those details and that they're getting a good product for what they're paying for. Excellent. Now, so let's move on to PTO. So of course, if you're using tractor, you're going to typically on farm have implements that you're going to use that attach that tractor. And a lot of those implements use power takeoff to be able to be run. And so we have information on power takeoff actually in our farmer safety rallies, because we want to warn the workers of the dangers of power takeoff. So where you find farmer safety rallies for machine safety is right here. So we've gone into resources, farmer safety rally, click machine safety, and then right under here we have power takeoff. And then we also included a separate one for power takeoff generators. So again, this opens up into a .doc. There it goes. And it goes through all the information of power takeoff, the do's and don'ts, some heads up, possible incidents and injuries that can happen, such as entanglement. And then on the second page, it kind of goes through evaluating the equipment and machinery on farm that use PTO. Are the guards in place? Is training provided? And hazard warning signs, decals, and labels visible for that PTO? Ask about any concerns that may have happened. A little test your knowledge to see if everyone was paying attention during this particular meeting. And then, of course, a record of attendance. So here, again, another resource to train your workers on PTO very quickly to make sure they know the dangers of power takeoff as well. We also have, under resources, under build a farm safety plan, in section 4, controlling hazards, workbook files, we have safe work practices. And so here you can find different machine safety resources here, including tractor and implement hitching, which would include your PTO. And then of course, the tractor itself and its operation. We'll include skid steer. We have the side-by-side here. We know they're not mobile equipment under legislation, but these are still machines that you'll want to follow the manufacturer's manual and prevent incident injuries, as well as we have forklift. So those are some of the main ones we have. Chainsaws can actually be included under machines as well. It just depends on how you set up your program. So if we look at even just tractor operation and under machine safety, one of the most common incidents that occur in Canada are the runovers and rollovers of the tractor. And a lot of it's not understanding the center of gravity and how the tractor responds when going up and down hills and slopes, and then when making turns on hills and slopes as well. So just noting some key things that can possibly happen too if you're not following that owner's manual, because it will give you the hints and tips under the safety warnings in the owner's manual on what to do and what not to do. So how many of you out there actually read the owner's manual? Just in the chat right now, say whether you read the owner's manual of new machinery that you purchase. How many? I'm not getting any response. I have some raised hands. This is good. So, oh, see, no. So, how many of you, and just put this in the chat as well, know where the manuals are on your particular machine? Put it in the chat if you know. Everybody's like, And then also, what is the condition of that manual? A lot of the times when I go to farm and do an evaluation for a farm safety plan, I'll look for those manuals. And I'll either get it where it's completely dusted and buried under a stack full of books, or it will still come to me in the plastic that it did years ago when they purchased the particular product. When I'm building a farm safety plan, that is the first thing that I'm taking and looking at is, okay, what does this machine require? What types of inspection processes it doesn't need to go? What does the maintenance look like? What are my safety precautions? What should I stay away from? What should I be wearing when I'm operating it? Looking for all those particular details so you know how to prevent instant injury when using it. So we keep the manuals in the office. Interesting comment. When you're operating equipment, say we're going to use the skid steer that is here in the particular example. If you have a problem in the field using your skid steer, how do you go and find more information? How do you troubleshoot? If it's in the skid steer, you can just pull that manual out right away and then start thumbing through and seeing, because you've already read it once. You can go to that troubleshoot section and just check and figure out if you can do anything about this particular issue out in the field at this point in time. But if you don't have it on the machine, you have to run back to the office, say that's where it's being kept, and try and find it. Or you would have to call a service company, and then you're going to incur a charge to figure out what is going on with this particular machine. So the owner's manual can save you some charges, but also you want to make sure you're competent in the work that you're going to do with this. So for instance, with the skid steer, if it was a simple light in the dash that maybe requires, say, more oil, that's something you could take care of on your own. But say there's a check engine light. If skid steer isn't something you've worked with over the years in regards to maintenance, you may want to leave that up to professionals. But the manual can guide you to where you should be with your particular maintenance. Is it something you can do in-house with a competent person, or is this something we should send out for service? Very good, very good. So now, just taking a look at our time, we have about 12 minutes left for questions. So what I want to do is just kind of halt here. And if you have a question, feel free to add it to this chat box that we have open here or in the Q&A, and I'll respond to it. I have one question here already, and it is, does FS&S provide training on machinery? If you're not familiar, FS&S is us, Farm Safety Nova Scotia, and we do have online training available for users. So it's awareness training, so it's not something that is going to certify you in the use of any of this equipment, but it certainly gives you the heads up of the hazards and certain characteristics of the machinery that you may be using. So if you click on training, a new window will open up. Scroll to online training. And right here, there's 10 different courses that open up, and a few of them here are on machinery. So I'd say 3 in particular. We have skid steer awareness, and we brought that up already with that manual. We have tractor and farm machinery in particular, and this one actually too will give you more stats in the first section of this training on the run over and rollover incidents in Canada. And then, of course, we have ag road safety. So this gives you everything that's required to go on the road in Nova Scotia. This is Nova Scotia in particular for your vehicles and tractors. So we do have training available. Any other questions? I see another one here. What is endorsement testing? So when I opened up that first resource under additional supports and looked at the pre-trip inspections, you noticed I went into a section called endorsement testing. So one of the things here is, what is endorsement testing? So I even have a sheet, a PDF that explains what it is. So I'm going to open that up. And here you'll see that endorsement testing is an add-on to your Class 3 or Class 5 license that allows you to drive on the highway when the conditions below exist. So for instance, if you have a Class 5 at this particular time, you can drive anything that is less than 14,000 kgs and tow anything less than 4,500 kgs. But when you add on a condition 15 with your truck, and this is a tow vehicle, and then of course, whatever you're towing, your combination weight still needs to be 14,000 kgs, but what you're towing now can be 4,500 kgs or more. So your combination weight still stays the same, but what you can tow is greater. So then the Class 3, without the condition 15, allows you to have a combination weight of 14,000 kg or more, but your towing weight is 4,500 kgs or less. It's not until that you get the condition 15 on your Class 3 that will allow you the combination weight of 14,000 kg or more, as well as tow more than 4,500 kg. This also lets you know, for those of you who are just starting out, that the Class 8, if you have a Class 8 alone, you're not allowed to tow anything on road. You can only drive that tractor on road, which is under 14,000 kgs. But if you take the Dell AC tractor safety course, which is coming up here in the fall, we haven't set the date yet, but it is coming, probably be November-ish. So if you take that course and pass the test on the second day, this allows you still a combination weight of 14,000 kgs or less, but you can take implements on the road. Any questions on that? So this you can download off the Farm Safety website. Again, it is under endorsement testing. If you are having trouble finding any of these items in particular, just hit the search button, type in what you're looking for, and it will pop up. Excellent. So I'm just checking for other questions here. And we have one last one. Where can we find best practices for other machinery? We did cover that, and I'm going to show you where to find that again. So if you go under resources, build a farm safety plan, go under section 4, controlling hazards, workbook, download workbook files. And then in here, everything that says SWP is a best practice. So there's a template to build your own, but here is the list that we mentioned that machinery may fall under. So you may choose chainsaw, forklift, your power mobile equipment. So this could be excavators, dozers, anything like that they're using especially to clear land, side-by-side, skid steer, and then of course the tractor is here. So I can download tractor for you so you can kind of see what this looks like. Here we go. And so here, this opens up your best practice. So it gives you related documents here. So sometimes it refers to legislation and your owner's manual and anything else that may be helpful with that particular machine. When to use the work practice or the best practice, the hazards associated with, and as you can see, the title is tractor operation, personal protective equipment, any training requirements, and of course that endorsement testing plays a key role here, especially for the younger drivers needing their Class 8. The communication process, any equipment and supplies, and making sure your emergency equipment is readily available. If it's not in the machine itself, have it on site where you are working and using that particular machinery. And then of course the do's and don'ts right through. Now we do also have, if you guys are from specific commodities, we have additional best practices for machinery. under the commodity plans. So if we hit Christmas tree, it's still in section 4. So this is all under hazard controls. And you scroll to safe practices here. So some of the machinery, you may include your air compressors here. They have tree baler, your clearing saw, we included in there. Your hedge trimmer. Let's see. The skidder would be included. And that wood chipper would be the other one that would be machinery safety. So you could clip on those or click on those and then download for your own particular use, adapt them, and then use them for training. So as part of that farmer safety rally that I showed you, maybe you download PTO, but you want to talk about tractor as well. Attach this to your particular meeting and you can review it as well. It's standardized information that everybody can follow. Excellent. So let me just check to see if there are any further questions. And I'm not seeing anything here. All right, so just taking you back, whoops, to resources and a reminder that all of your supports for machinery safety can be found on the Farm Safety Nova Scotia website. We looked at the farm safety plan where we could download a pre-trip for forklift. We also looked at the additional supports under endorsement testing, for endorsement testing in particular to operate your machinery on road, but also sample pre-trip inspections. When you go for endorsement testing, they do ask you to perform a pre-trip inspection, whether you're doing it for condition 15 or 23. So if you contact me to set up endorsement testing, I will send out those particular requirements as well. Also there, I just want to quickly mention that the Transportation Guidelines for Nova Scotia Farmers Guidebook, there's a link here as well to the latest guidelines for operating machinery on the road. So that is available. Quick download. And if you're having trouble downloading any of these resources because internet in your area is a little sketchy, just give me a call, 902-957-2785, and I can add a lot of these resources to USB for you. Just let me know which ones you want. I'll add them to USB and mail them out to you. You just have to be able to use a computer to insert that USB into your computer and bring those particular materials up. I can also send print materials if you're more comfortable with those as well. Then you'll just have to be able to transfer those materials into a new document and make them your own. So that is the wrap up for Farmer Safety Corner for August 18th on machinery safety. Thanks again for joining me, and hopefully we'll see you next time.